Kamala Harris blames staff for disastrous health podcast interview. And I didn't even see the interview. I didn't even know this interview existed. But supposedly she blew up on staff because she wasn't prepared for the interview. Well, really, the guy was asking questions that if you were running for president, and you were opposing the opposing person, you should know. You should already have the answers to these questions. She was asking for like some notes or something or briefs or something on it, when she thought it was supposed to be just a short interview, but it ended up being a little bit more lengthy than she wanted, and what she wasn't prepared. It just shows how stupid this woman really is. And I don't call too many people stupid, but she's really not that intelligent, not that bright, because I don't understand if you're running for president, you should already have the answers to these questions. So we're going to talk about it and hear what she was asked. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. There's a link to my Patreon. That's where I'll talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. I don't know if this video is going to be a little choppy. I don't know what's going on with my laptop today. My main PC is getting worked on, so I don't know if it's delayed or something. I apologize. Excuse if the video is really clippy. I apologize. But this comes from Slay News, and they report that former Vice President Kamala Harris admitted in her new memoir that she lashed out at staffers for failing to adequately prepare her for a 2024 interview with YouTube personality Dr. Mike. Again, she's blaming others. She never accepts accountability for anything here. But in her book, 107 Days, Harris also revealed that she ultimately passed on choosing Pete Buttigieg as her running mate because he is gay. It's funny because she tried to backtrack that, but then the reporter asked her, well, why did you not take him again? And she says, because he's gay. So like, it's crazy. She is terrible, man. But Harris recalled being blindsided by the wide-ranging November 1st, 2024 interview with Dr. Mikhail Mike Warshawski. The disastrous interview came just days before the election. Quote, "What the F was that?" Harris demanded of her senior aides after the brief Zoom appearance, according to excerpts from the book. Harris wrote that staffer Kirsten Allen had told her the sit down would be a, quote, brief thing on the RFK appointment. So that's what she was sitting down thinking she was going to be talking about. It came shortly after then candidate Donald Trump's announcement that he intended to give Robert F. Kennedy Jr., quote, a big role in healthcare if elected, which he did. Trump is definitely sticking to his promises. But anyway, instead, Dr. Mike introduced Harris to his Checkup podcast audience with the promise to press her on healthcare costs, anti-science rhetoric, barriers to primary care, and women's health. Now, these issues aren't that sophisticated. These issues aren't that difficult to talk about. I mean, healthcare costs, everyone knows that, healthcare is super duper high. Remember, they promised us that Obamacare would lower healthcare costs, and it did the exact opposite. But I digress. That's a whole nother story. Anti-science rhetoric, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, we could talk about anti-science rhetoric. I don't know why she had a difficult time with that one. Barriers to primary care, something else, another issue that no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you're able to articulate what's going on there. And women's health, another, like, none of these issues are difficult. Why does she need to prepare for that? Why does she need a brief? Why was she upset because they didn't prepare her for that? These are things that you should be apprised of anyway because you're running for president, right? But she said, quote, what the F? This is clearly not a brief thing on RFK, Harris recalled thinking. Dr. Mike was deeply knowledgeable, warmed up on all these issues, and raring to go. As I would have been, I had not just been ambushed by an unscheduled in-depth interview with no notice at the end of a 19-hour day. I slid a scribed note across the table. Where's my briefing? See, so she needed notes, just like Joe Biden needed notes. But at least Joe Biden had an excuse why he needed notes and why he needed a brief, because the man's clearly suffering from some type of mental decline. So at least Joe Biden had an excuse. What's her excuse? Why she can't talk without notes, without a brief? She said, "Where's my briefing?" The staff looked at each other. They had nothing, she wrote. Afterward, Harris said aide Brian Fallon attempted to justify the misstep. Quote, "I raised my hand and stopped him mid-sentence," Harris wrote. "Brian," I said through gritted teeth, "that was a rhetorical question." I told you she's not a good person and she's not that bright. Dr. Mike reacted to the memoir excerpt on social media. The original interview aired on November 3rd with Harris warning that a Trump-Kennedy administration would be disastrous. Trump went on to win, of course, the 2024 election, and Kennedy now serves successfully as Secretary of Health and Human Services. Harris's book has received mixed to negative reviews, even from progressive outlets, with some Democrats criticizing it as divisive and politically unhelpful. One of the most controversial revelations in Harris's acknowledgement that she considered Pete Buttigieg as a potential running mate. However, she ultimately decided against him. Harris wrote that Buttigieg, quote, "would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight white man." She continued by claiming that asking the American people to vote for a black woman was her biggest obstacle. She's not black. Ugh, I wish she stopped calling herself black, because we all know she's not black. It goes on to say, "But we were already asking a lot of America to accept a black woman married to a Jewish man," Harris explained. "Part of me wanted to say, screw it, let's just do it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big of a risk. And I think Pete also knew that, to our mutual sadness." The former vice president claimed her campaign feared that Americans would not accept a ticket that included both her identity and Buttigieg's homosexuality. Of course, the book fails to mention that Harris's many failings cost her the election, not her race or gender. Yeah, she was just a terrible candidate. Democrats keep putting forth these terrible candidates. I mean, they tried to push Hillary Clinton in 2016, and then I know how Joe Biden won, but I'm not going to go there. We all know how Joe Biden won, but we're not going to talk about that on this platform. And then they put forth Kamala Harris, one of the worst candidates in presidential history, I believe, and it showed. It showed because when you go and try to talk to her, she's so inauthentic. It's like talking to someone that's like has nothing there. She was so vapid. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.